register anymore. They must just write the student numbers in the chat.
Yes. Let me also just share my screen so that they have that. I have all those instructions.
Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm also on tomorrow. But you can
Okay.
WhatsApp me. I am around.
All right. Hello. Just give us 5 more minutes because I think people don't know how to join the session. I just want to send them the link. It's always a mission and a half. I had it just now. Just give me some time. I'll be with you just now. Good afternoon. Sorry about that. I think now we are set to go. Whoever joins late will find us while we are busy. I just want to start by getting ourselves refreshed of what we covered during our Monday session, because it's a build-up, so that we are still aware of what is happening and what is expected of us when we do financial maths calculations. Please write your student number in the chat. We no longer use the register, but the link to the register. Just type your student number on the chat. I will also leave a message for those who come in late. Do you have any question? Any questions for me before we start? If there are no questions, then we good to go. We're going to first look at, just refresh our mind when it comes to simple interest, and then we look at the compound interest, and then we will go to time value of your money. And all these are interlinked, especially the compound interest and time value of the money. And you will see why I'm saying that they are linked to one another. So time value of the money is when we're moving the money backward or forward, but we apply or we use the same formula as we use in the compound interest. Then we will end up doing a whole lot of other exercises when time allows. So on Monday, we started this discussion. We looked at how we calculate simple interest, which simple interest meaning it is interest that you pay at the beginning of the term, or at the beginning of when you take up your loan, or at the beginning when you save up your money. And that is interest. And we learned how to calculate that, how to do the basic calculations when we look at interest. And we also said with interest, since it's payable at the beginning of the term, we use the formula I is equals to P times R times T, which is the principal amount times the rate times the period or the term of how long you're borrowing the money or how long you're saving the money. And remember also interest, we do not round it off, we keep it as it is. Those who are doing manual calculation, especially with the simple interest, we're all going to be doing manual calculations. Therefore, we divide interest, which will be represented as a percentage, by 100 and substitute it into the formula. And the term, we always count it in years, because the interest will normally be yearly or annually, so or in years. So therefore, your period also needs to be converted to years. If your period is given to you in months or in quarters, you just need to convert that into the number of years. And we did some exercise. We looked at also how to calculate the future value of your interest. I'm not going to go into too much detail into that, but we look at how we calculate the future interest, which includes also the future value of your simple interest, where we use the formula S is equals to P times 1 plus RT. Since we know that interest is made up of your future value minus your present value, or your future value is made up of your present value, which is your principal amount, plus your interest. We looked at an example where we calculated the future value of an amount that was given, the amount that was borrowed of 7,500 at an interest rate of 15%, which is payable in 4 months. And since it was payable in 4 months, we needed to convert the months into a year, and we substituted into the formula and calculated, and the future value was 7,875. And with that, we did an exercise, but just to refresh our mind and memory so that we don't forget, I also have another exercise that I want you to do. There is your exercise. An investment of 5,650 at a simple interest of 8% per annum will reach 6,780 in. You need to find what number of years will be. And to calculate that, we need to use the simple interest formula, which is S is equals to P, especially for the future value, which is S is equals to P times 1 plus RT, and we want to make T the subject of the formula. The other thing I need to make you aware is when you look at the questions as well in the exam, because probably it will be your last few questions, like from question number 16 onward, it will be your financial math, which will be about 8 questions that come out of the financial math. Usually, the first 2 questions will be your simple interest. And why will you know that you need to be using the simple interest? They will also tell you that it's simple interest. And you know, for simple interest, you just use the formulas to calculate. If it will be compounded, then you will be told that it's compounded monthly or annually, or it's repayable annually or monthly. When you get to the annuities, you will learn to differentiate how you answer the question. But for this one, it's simple interest, so therefore we use simple interest formulas. You have 5 minutes to do this one exercise. Okay, do we have an answer? Remember, you can type your answers in the chat. I see there Brian already posted and somebody liked it. So others, are you still busy? Remember, if you also don't know how to answer the question, you must also say so that we can help you stay you in the right direction. Okay, so who wants to do the answer with me? Let's identify what we are given in the question. What are we given? So today you are boycotting me, okay? So we are given the present value. We're given the present value. We are given the interest, which is R. We are also given the future value, and we need to find T. So we just substitute into the formula. We just need to substitute the values into the formula. So our future value, 6,780 equals our present value, 5,650 times 1 plus our rate. Remember, it's 8%, so it will be 8 divided by 100, which then becomes 0.08. So we substitute 0.08. And T is what we are looking for. So we can take the 6,000 and the 5,000 and divide it. We can divide this side by 5,650, divide this side by 5,650. So we'll end up having 6,080 divided by 5,650. And on the other side, I have 1 plus 0.08T. And when you calculate on the other side, 6,780 divide by 5650 equals, and the answer is 2. And this side we have 2.658. I'm going to write it all of it. 8, because I'm using my scientific calculator. It has all the digits. 2,35229. And I need to take the 1 to the other side, so subtract by 1, because the 1 is got an addition. I'll subtract by 1, and I will be left with 0.08 T. All I can do as well is to divide the side by 0.08, and I will also have to divide the side by 0.08. And therefore my T on this other side will be left, and this side I will be left with 2.61111 minus 1 equals divide by 0.08 equals, and the answer will be 20 point. Did I do something wrong now? Is there some way where I made a mistake or what?
Hi, Lucy.
Yeah, yes.
Hi, it's Brian here. I did some basically differently to what you were doing. So I started with the formula and I put the S, the 6,780 equals to 5,650 in brackets, 1 plus 0.08T. Then what I did was I brought the 5,650. So I first multiplied it into the bracket. So 5,650.
Let's do it the way you are doing it, but also this should work as well. I just want to do it the same way as you are doing right now.
Okay.
Let's go there. So what you're doing first, you simplify it by removing the brackets.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you get. Okay, you can carry on now.
So 5,650 multiplied by 1. And then 5,000 plus, and the plus sign, because 5,650 multiplied by 0.08 gives me 452 T. Then I brought the 5,650 over to the 6,780, make it a minus.
So it will be
780 minus 5650 equal to 452 T. Then I divide on the left hand side the 6,780 minus the 5,650, and will give me 1130 equals to 452 T. To eliminate the 452, I divided with 452, and on the what I do on the right hand side, I do on the left hand side.
Yes.
It leaves me T, and then it leaves me with 2,5.
And the answer you get is 2.5.
5.
Which makes it
Make the answer 2 decimals is 2,50.
2.50.
Is that correct? Or
Yes,
did I?
yes, it is. Yes, it is correct. The other way also, that was the other one that I was doing, because 5650 is multiplying, so we can divide the side by 5650 and also divide on the other side by 5650.
Yeah.
Then on the other side, you will be left with 1 plus 0,080, and you will need to remove the 1 by subtracting on the other side, and then you will divide by 0,08 as well. So it will still work out the same way.
I think where you went wrong is we divided the 6,780 and the 5,650.
Yes,
On my calculator, it gives me 1.5, 1.2.
yes, I saw that I punched in on my calculator wrong.
Yeah.
Yes, but the
Okay.
solution should be exactly the same. So while we're still at that, the other question that you have is this one. It asks, a man took a loan from a bank at an interest rate of 11% per year. After 4 years and 9 months, he had to pay 2,854.80 interest for that period. What will be the principal amount borrowed by him? So since we are looking for the principal and they are not giving us the future value, but they are giving us the interest, and we know that interest is the amount, so we can use the simple interest formula to calculate. So it means we need to calculate our P. What are we given? We're given our R, which is 0,115. We are given 4 and 9 months. So you will need to convert the 9 months into a year. I say 9 divided by 12 and adding that to the 4 years so that you can get your T, so that you can get your T, and you are given your interest, which is your I. When you have your period, your rate, and your interest, you can substitute into the formula and calculate your P and make P the subject of the formula. Are you guys winning? Do you have an answer? Do you understand why you need to divide by 12? Your months, because we need to convert it to the year. And we need to add it back to the 4 years so that everything is in the same unit. So if we 9 divided by 9 divided by 12 gives us 0.75. And if we add it to the 4, you end up with 4.75, which will be your T, and you substitute into the formula. Our interest is 2854.80. P is what we're looking for. Our rate is 0.115 because it was 11.5 divided by 100, multiply by 4.75. Making P the subject of the formula, we can divide by the value inside the bracket. So it will be 2854.80. I'm even scared to do the calculations myself because I'm punching the wrong things on my calculator. So I will rely on you to give me the answers. Plus I am using my phone. 75. What will be the answer? And what is the answer that you got?
Hi, Lizzie.
Yes.
Brian again.
Yes, Brian.
So I got 5226.18, option 2.
Yes, because 0.115 times, let me just double check this, 0.115 times 4.75 gives us 0.5462 some number.
625.
625. And
Yeah.
if we take that number
Divided.
and so let's do it step by step. We know that this will be 2854.80 divided by 0.54.
0.54. 625.
625. And therefore our P will be equals to
5226.18.
And which makes it option number 2.
Yes. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And that's how you do simple interest. So the key word is looking at the question, identifying what you are given in the question. If you're given like months, quarters, you need to make sure that you remember that you need to convert those months and quarters into a year. And your interest, you just need to always remember to divide by 100 so that you take it to a decimal. And also not only just identifying what you're given, but it also, when you identify what is given in the question, it will also help you to identify the formula to be used to answer the question. For example, you do not have to go and use the future value, simple interest future value formula to answer this question because you are not given the future value. Since we are not given the future value, but we are asked to calculate the present value and we are given the interest, we can be able to calculate the other values given by based on the information that we have. Any question relating to simple interest? If there are no questions, remember simple interest, we always use formulas. Sorry, I'm so quick.
Sorry, Lizzie, you are quick. Sorry, I just want to check, and I'm sorry if I missed this. Not well, maybe I should know this, but when I calculate, I've got the sharp calculator. If
Yes.
I divide 11.5 divided by 12, then I get, divided by 100, then I get 0.12. So I don't get 0.115. Is it a setting on my calculator?
It's this. Are you using the financial calculator?
Yes.
Okay, so on your calculator, go setup, press the setup function.
Yeah.
And press 0.
Mm-hmm.
And press 0 again. And now you should see it says digit 0 to 9. Put it to 2 decimals. So press 2 and your calculator will be to 2 decimals. So when you do any calculations, it will take it to 2 decimals. But now, since this is financial maths and we want to keep all the decimals, we need to you need to have your calculator always to 4 decimals. So go back and say setup 00 and then press 4. Then when you do any other calculation, you will always have 4 decimals. But then when you get to the answer and you want to round it off, you can just use setup 004. So
okay,
you use that functionality. So,
thank you so much.
Keep your calculator 4 decimals. Setup 004.
Got it, thank you.
Great. Just to remind you, the 2 functions or the 2 formulas we've dealt with. So the simple interest, the future value of your simple interest. Sometimes they might ask you to find the present value. So you just need to manipulate the equations in order for you to find the value you're looking for, like calculate the interest or calculate the period. You just need to make that value the subject of the formula. Okay, moving on to what we also discussed was the compound interest. Also, we've learned how to do the basic calculations when it comes to the compound interest. And here, what is very interesting is those with the financial calculators, you then can now use your financial calculator function. And the functions are the same throughout until we go until we get to the end of your components. Like when we do amortization, you will always be using those line. That line is very important. That is the only line we're going to be using for financial calculators. And at the later stage, you will learn to use also the AMRT, which is the amortization. And with compound interest, those without a financial calculator, you just need to know how to use your formulas to make something the subject of the formula. And we've dealt with this on Monday. We said interest, compound interest is interest on top of interest. And the formula to do the compound interest, if we want to calculate the future value of compound interest, we use S is equals to P times 1 plus R to the power of T. Those who are calculating manually, you always need to remember the following. Your R, you will need to divide by the compounding period. Your T, you will need to remember to multiply by the compounding period. Those who are using this financial calculator, you just need to know the steps. If you do your steps right, by first putting your compounding periods and cleaning your calculator or pressing on and off your calculator and start capturing what you are given, everything is fairly straightforward by just putting the value and pressing the function to store the answer. And when it comes to the compounding periods, remember, we can compound, it can be compounded daily, which means 365, regardless of the leap years. Weekly will be 52. Monthly will be 12. Quarterly will be 4. Biannually will be 2. And they can say half yearly, it means one of these. Or sometimes they might say 6 monthly. So it's 6 months. 6 months, it's semesters. It's half of the year. So there are 6 months in a year. If they say 3 months or 3 months, then, or they will say quarterly. So we know that a quarter is made up of three months. Yearly or annually or a year, it's one. So you just need to know your compounding periods. It's very important. And we're going to be using these compounding periods from now until you do the amortization. We'll still keep on talking about compounded, compounding, compounded, compounding. So you just need to know when they talk about it in width and what will they refer to in number, in a numerical format. I am not going to do this because that's what I just explained. You divide your interest by the compounding periods and you multiply your period by the compounding periods. And this is only applicable for those who are calculating using the formulas manually. Those who are using their financial calculator, the steps are totally different. Okay, and then we looked at the example. I'm just gonna put it all up here. So we looked at the example using the manual calculation. We said if we have 500 that we need to invest in 10 years, and we have to pay an interest of 7.5 per annum, and it is compounded annually. So our compounding periods is annually, which means it's equals to 1. And this is the formula to calculate the future value, because we want to calculate the compounded amount, which is the accumulated amount, which is the future value amount. The other thing I also need to mention here is the following. Sometimes you might, at the later stage, you will realize that you will need to also determine whether is this amount that I am given, is it the future value or is it the present value? Usually, the amount you borrow always is your present value. The amount you have to repay back is always going to be your future value. If you are making savings, the amount you save now is your present value. The amount you will receive at the end, it will be your future value. But when we do the annuities at the later stage, you will see that there will be a difference. We might say the saving amount becomes your future value, and then your borrowing becomes your present value. But it will also depend on the type of questions you are answering, because it will clearly guide you, because then we're talking about the payment and the amount you will receive and so forth. So you will need to be very careful when you read the question. That is why it's very important to understand and unpack and identify what are you given. So in this instance, compounded amount, future value. 500, present value. 10 years, our T is 10 years. Oh, I didn't fix my slide again. I can see that. This should be to the power of 10. And compounded yearly, which is 1 year. Since it's compounded yearly, our interest will just remain 7.5. Our period will always remain as 10 years because it's multiplying by 1. So we substitute into the formula and we get 1,030.52 cents. That is when we do the manual calculations. When we do the financial calculator steps, like I said, the steps are almost exactly the same. Nothing, the only thing that changes is the value you are storing. The first step, always clear your calculator from any stored information, especially now when you are doing the financial math. You will be calculating one question after the other, There will be data stored on your calculator. You need to make sure that you clear that data by pressing second function CA. Then second function PY, which is on there. Today I have my financial calculator. The P/Y is on the I&Y button. So when you press second function I&Y, you are actually pressing the value to store your compounding periods. And then you press the E&T button, which is the enter, after you have put in the value of your compounding period. And in this instance, our compounding period is 1. So here is the other thing. In the exam, you might want to also save a lot of time. If it's compounded yearly, you don't even have to put in the compounding periods, because then it's always going to multiply by 1, you're going to multiply by 1, and you're going to divide by 1. So you don't have to do the compounding period. I just to make sure that you get used to the steps so that you don't forget to put the compounding periods first. It's always advisable that you do this step. Second function PY1 ENT. Then press the on and off button. Then put whatever you are given. In this instance, we are given the present value. Before you put in the present value also, remember to do plus or minus, which is the negative. So plus or minus will give you a negative 500. And then you store your value as PV, which is your present value. Then you will put in the value of your interest. The other thing I also need to mention here is the order does not matter. You can start with the interest or you can start with the period. It doesn't really matter. So we can put in the interest by pressing 7.5. Remember now also, with your financial calculator, you do not have to divide by 100. The value as you see it, you put it on the calculator as you see it on the question. If it was 8%, you put it as 8%, 8. Then you press I and Y. Then you press 10, which is 10 years. Second function, 10, which second function times PY. If you press the N button, you will be pressing multiply by the compounding periods that we had. And then you have to also press the N button because then you are storing your value on your calculator as the period. Then you just need to press the comp and FV for future value, and the answer you will get will be the same as the one they would have gotten when they did the manual calculations. I just also want to highlight the last thing. Also, with the future value or the compounding period, the formula is always going to be S is equals to P times 1 plus R to the power T. The challenge here is because when you're calculating the time or the period, your T is in the power. To get T down, you also need to use the logarithms, and that's how you will do it. The other thing, because T is in the power, now, to make sure that if you want to calculate your R, it's not that straightforward because it's R, you can say it's R to the power of T, and you can also do the P to the, 1 to the power of T if you want. But what I'm trying to get at is you need to know how to make T the subject of the formula or R the subject of the formula on this calculate from this formula. When you are asked to calculate R, you need to know how to manipulate that equation. So my guess is when you go write the exam, make sure that you have a cheat sheet, formula sheet somewhere close by so that you can always refer to. Okay? This is more especially those who are going to use the Casio calculators or sharp scientific calculator, and not those who are using the financial calculator, because if you are using a financial calculator, the steps are the same. You just compute R, which is I and Y, or you compute T, which is your N. And remember, when you compute N, sometimes they might say they want the answer in years. If they say in years, but it was compounded quarterly or yearly or monthly or, sorry, if it's compounded yearly, it's not a problem. But if it's compounded monthly, quarterly, weekly, when you press comp N, you always have to remember to divide by the compounding periods when you get the answer. You can say divide by, and then you go and say second function and I and Y, which will always give you the answer for the compounding periods you stored, and then it will give you your answer. Those who are calculating manually, you also, when you calculate your T, when you get to the final answer, you just need to say divide by, and you will remember the compounding periods that you use to divide your R, and then you just use the compounding periods to divide your periods to get it to the years. And with that, I have an exercise. I'm going to skip that one, And I'm going to come to this exercise here, which is what I'm trying to show you. So here it says you have the compounded interest on 23,000 and some random number there invested at 10.5% interest per year. And this is compounded semi-annually. And that compounded interest is 10,022 rand 43, and they want to know what will be the number of interest in years, the number of years for which the money was invested. So yeah, you need to also be very careful. What did they give you as values? So they're telling you that the compound interest on that amount of 23,269 is 10,022 rand 43, and they're telling you that it was compounded semi-annually, and they also tell you that it is compounded with the interest of 10.5, but they want you to calculate T. So what haven't they given you there to enable you to calculate T is your present value. How do you get the present value? Remember, present value or your interest is your future value minus the present value. Remember that. And with that, I am just going to leave it at that. You just need to make T the subject of the formula. I am giving you these steps, but these steps might not be the conclusive steps. So I'm just also showing you. So those who are calculating manually, these are the steps that you will need to follow. Those who are calculating with the financial calculator, this will probably be the steps that you are calculating. You just need to make sure that you have your present value, your future value, and remember, because you have your present value and your future value in the question, you just need to make sure that only one of them has a plus or minus in front. And when you calculate, because it is compounded semi-annually, you are going to calculate your compounding periods, and you're going to compound your term or your period, and then you divide that by the compounding period. And the other thing that I need to mention is this I and Y there. It's because you are pressing the I and Y button to get to the P/Y. You have this 10 minutes to do the exercise.
Lizzie,
Yes.
um, I have a question.
Mhm.
So using or following the steps of a financial calculator, just looking at it, so I just want to make sure I'm getting the definitions right. So IY is interest per year, PV is present value, FV is future value,
Yes.
and again interest per year. But where do I then put in the rate? Because I don't know.
Your rate is your interest, is your IY.
I was my IY. Okay, thank you. So not the interest amount, but the interest rate
Which
is the
is,
IY,
you mean this, which is this? It is
the
your
10.5.
IY.
Okay, because I was looking at the 10,022 and 43, and I thought that's the interest amount, but the IY is in the rate.
This is your interest amount.
Okay, but that I don't need to use. Do I need to? No, because I don't think I need to use it in this calculation.
No, you don't use it, but it can help you get some
Yes, get an
some value.
y-
What
yes
are you going to use it to get what?
to get the
Okay, let's start here. What is 23?
that's your present value.
That's your present value.
And then you add your 10,022 and 43 interest, and then you get your future value.
Which is your future. Okay, I'm going to write it as S.
Or your S, yeah.
And then you can just substitute into the formula. So you actually have everything except N. And remember, this is your compounding period, which is just UP/Y. And it is compounded semi-half yearly. So it means your compounding periods are how many? 2. So those who are calculating manually, you always need to remember, divide by 2, multiply by 2. You can do that outside and then come and substitute into the formula. Okay, so since it's 5 past, we can just continue. Let's do the exercise. So those who are calculating with financial calculator, it's easy. I am not going to repeat the steps. So there you will put 2. Your plus or minus is your present value, which is 23,269. Your future value, you should have calculated that. It will be 23,269 plus 10,022.43. This will be 23,269 plus 10,022.43. The answer you get, you're going to replace the future value there. Your INY is 10.5, and then you compute N and divide by 2. Those are the steps. Those who are calculating manually, I'm also not going to go into detail, but you just substitute your S. You said it is 23,269 plus 10,022.43 equals your P, which is 23. So we're using the formula in here, which is equals 23,269 times 1 plus your rate, which is 0.105 divided by 2 to the power of how long? We don't know how long, so it will be t. So it means on here, you don't even have to multiply by t. We need to make t the subject of the formula. So we know that to make t the subject of the formula, it means we are going to use the logarithms. So the first step here, what you can do to help those who are calculating manually, let's do this. It will be 23,269 plus 10,022.43 equals 23 or 33. This side will be 33,291.43 equals, we can also just multiply what is inside the bracket with what is in there. So what is 10.5 divided by 100 equals 0.105 divided by the compounding period, we get 0.0525 plus 1, we get 1.052, and then we multiply that answer by what is outside the bracket, which is 23,269 equals multiply by 23,269 equals, and we get 24,49 I am just going to write 6225, and this is to the power of t. And then if we apply the log, when we do the log this side, the best way, if you know the logs, it will be easy. So you will apply the log this side, which will be the log of 33,291.43. And on the other side, if we apply the rules of the log, so let's say we have x to the power of t. When we apply the log to this value, I'm just going to demonstrate to you the function. The log of x to the power of t is the same as t times the log of x. So if that is the case, then we can do it the same way here. So this will be t times the log of everything that is inside the bracket, 24,490.6225. Everything that is inside the bracket. Therefore, it means we are going to divide this side by t log of 249. Therefore, the answer this side will just be t, and this side will say the log of 33,291.43 divided by the log of 24,490.6225. Now, on your calculators, depending on which calculator you are using, so let's say you do not have the financial calculator, you have a sharp scientific calculator, the DAL calculator, or the Casio, you just look for the log button on your calculator. So I have my one, is just the log, and I say log of 33,291.43 divide by, just press the log of 24,490.6225 equals, and I get a very wrong number. It's something that I didn't do right. Where did I not do right? Those who are calculating manually, help me out here. So let's restart from the beginning. 0.10, 0.105 divided by 2 is 0.0525 plus 1, we get 1.0. Unless if I do it this way, sorry, let me not do it all together so that we can do it step by step. Because I'm not getting the correct answer there. Just want to make sure that I do it step by step. Okay, so this side, I'm going to take this value and divide the side by this value. So I'm going to divide by 23,269 this side, and this I will be left with 1,05 to the power t, which is on the other side. And on this side, we just divide 33,291. Is it correct? Am I calculating it right? Let me just double check this. 23,269 plus 10,022.43 equals 33,291.43. So I done it right. Divide that by 23,269 equals, and this side we have 1.43 and some odd numbers, 307 some number, and this we have 1,0525 to the power t. Now to get t down, we apply the laws of logarithm like we did there. So we know that that is 1 to the power of t. So we're just going to take the log, which will be t times the log of 1,0525 this side, which will what we do on the right, we must do on the left, 1,4307. So if we divide this side by the log of 1,0525, and we also divide this side by the log of 1,0525. Can you calculate that for me? The log of, sometimes it uses the ln. Let me just use the ln on this calculator. The log of 1,43.
Lizzie?
Yes.
So I have an answer for you. So the log of 1.43072. I got 0.1555473.
And divide by the log of 1,0.
That is 0.04336278.
Okay.
And then I get got the answer of 3,5873.
3,5.
3,5. Yes.
Yes. And then
So
your answer.
I have a question though, because the compounding period was semi-annually, which is 2. Do we multiply the 3.5 with 2?
No, you don't have to multiply because the answer they wanted in years. So we just leave it as they are. It's only when you're doing on the financial calculator, when you compound your n, what do you get on your financial calculator? You get 7. Remember that. Then what you do is divide 7 by 2, it will give you 3.5.
Okay, so I did it manually. So I basically did both.
Yes.
So it gave me 7.17. But yeah, so option 1 is the answer there.
Yes. So when you divide the log of 1,4307 divide by the log of, because I didn't calculate that, the log of 1,4307 divide by the log of 1,0525 equals 6.9. So it's not 3, it's not 3.5, it's equals 6.9, which is 7. Sorry, that is why I'm so confused right now. It's 6.9997. 6.997. And what you do is just divide that by 2, and that will give you 3.5. You always have to divide by the compounding periods. So the log of 1,307 divided by the log of 1,0525 should give you 6,99723,051, which is equivalent to 7. And divide that answer, if I take that answer and divide by 2, and I get 3.499, which is to 2 decimals, it will be 3.50, which is 3.5. Okay, that's how you will calculate the periods. Now let's look at how we use the same kind of calculation for the compounding periods, but use it for moving the money forward and moving the money backwards, which is what we call time value of money. So with time value of money, we're also going to learn how to do the basic calculations of this by applying simple rules, because when we move money backwards and forward, we are negotiating some new dates or new interest, for example. So let's say we borrow money and we said we want to pay it back after 5 years. But maybe after 3 years, you receive a bonus that enables you to settle your amount because you want to live a debt-free life. So then, remember the interest, usually it was calculated based on the 5-year term that you were going to be paying that amount. Now, when you're moving your money backwards, then what you need to be repaying will also be less. It's the same as the settlement amount. So if you have a car or a house and you want, or a loan, a clothing account, and you say, I want to settle my account in advance, and you will see that they will change your amount that is due, and it will move backwards so that they give you the correct amount that you will need to repay now, based on the fewer months that are left or the fewer years that are left. Okay, so that is time value of your money. And when we move money forward, we use the same accumulation factor, which is 1 plus r to the power t. But when we move in the money backwards, if we want to settle early, then we use the t will be minus t at the top, or we can divide by the accumulation factor, which means we take our p, we divide it by r, 1 plus r to the power t. So what do I mean by this? So it means when I'm moving money forward, my formula stays S is equals to P times 1 plus R to the power T. When I'm moving my money backwards, so if I'm moving the money backwards and I am dividing, so I'm using the same concept, so it will be S is equals to P divided by 1 plus R to the power T, or you will say S is equals to P times 1 plus R to the power minus T, one and the same thing. And that will be only when you are moving the money backwards. So what does that mean for those who are using the financial calculator? It means the same thing. The only thing now, when you put in the period, when you go second function, when you say, let's say the period was 10 years, now you will say for that one, if the period was 10 years, then you will just say 10, second function, n, and again, remember multiplying by the compounding periods and then storing the value. But when it comes to this one, you will say minus 10, second function, so it means you will press the plus or minus first to get the minus 10 plus or will be plus or minus 10, second function n, and again, remember n, the first n is to multiply with the compounding periods and the second n is to store the value. And that's how you will use it on your calculator. Money forward, we use the same as the compounding periods that interest formula that we have been using. Money backwards, we have to use the minus t at the top. Otherwise, everything stays as it was. So how do we do this? So to calculate your money moving back and forth, time value of your money, we always say, it's not always payments, but we say payment is equals to obligation plus debt, or obligation of debt. So it means how many number of debts you have plus how many payments you're making so that they can balance out. So let's look at this example. Ed has to pay his father 7,000, which was due in 4 years' time. And remember, all financial maths from questions can be put or placed on a timeline for ease of understanding. So if I put this on a timeline as I speak, so I need to do it that way. So we know that Ed has to pay his father 7,000, which is due in 4 years' time. So if this is my 4 years and this is current, in 4 years' time, he has to pay 7,000. So to lessen his burden, he paid his father 1,500 in advance at the end of year 1. So if this is year 1, he pays 1,300, and this is our present value or payment. And then after some bad luck, he went and borrowed additional 750 at the end of year 2. So this is year 1. Let's write it in that way. Year 1. And let's write this one year 2. In year 2, he went and he borrowed 708. You will notice that I am writing all the money that is borrowed at the top and the money that is paying at the bottom. So he decides to live a debt-free life and settle the debt of his loan in 3 years. So he wants to settle this in 3 years. So this is our new date now. So we need to settle this loan in that, in 3 years. So 2 things or 3 things are happening here. So we know that we're paying the amount which is going forward. We know that we borrowed money which is still going forward because they didn't tell us when they will settle that 780 because they all had to be settled at that point. And we know that he was settling the 7,000 in year 4. But now he wants to live a debt-free life here at this point. Therefore, it means the 7,000 needs to go back. So it means this one is going backward. This one is still going forward because they never said when he will settle that one. So it's going forward. And also this one is going forward. And all the payments and the debt. So this is the payment. This is our PMT. And all of the ones at the top, these are our debts. So all of them, payments and debts, are subject to the same interest rate of 11%. So 11% per annum, and it's compounded. Our compounding period is equal to yearly. So it's 1. Make our life easier. What will be the final payment? What will be that lump sum amount that he has to settle at year 3? Because now he's moving the 7,000 backwards. He's also moving the money forward. So what we need to do now is to calculate how many number of times or periods. This one is moving 1, 2 years. So this one, our N, is 2 years. This one is moving only 1 year. So this one, our N is 1 year. This one is moving backwards 1 year. So our N for this one will be equals to -1 because it's moving. Our T will be, so I can call it T. T will be -1 because it's moving one year backwards. How do we do this in a formula? Easy. So we know that payment number 1 is our deposit. Payment number 2 is what we need to be calculating, which is our final payment. Remember, payment plus debt. Payment is equals to debt or obligations. Our debt number 1 is the 7,001, and debt number 2 is our 7,000. Is our 780. Our payment 1, the money is moving forward, so we use the same formula. P is equals to R plus 1 plus R to the power T, and this is what we need to be calculating, our final payment equals our debt number 1, which is 7,000. We know that it's moving backwards, so the formula will be P times 1 plus R to the power minus T. And our last debt, which was 780, which was borrowed at the end of year 2, it's moving forward, so the formula will be P is equals to R plus T. Substitute the values that we know into the formula. So we know that our P was 1,300, our interest is the same, compounded yearly, which means it's divided by 1. Our period is moving 2 times because it's from year 1 until year 3, it's 2 years. 2 times 1 is the same as 2. This is our final payment, 7,000, and it was moving backwards 1 year, so we used -1, and the 780 was moving forward 1 year, so we make it to the power of T. And then we solve for FP. So we move the 1,300 on the other side, which then becomes a minus, and we solve the equation. The answer for 7,000 will be 6,301. The answer for 780 will be 865 minus the answer for 1,300, which is 1,601. And the final payment is 5570.38. And that is if you're doing things manually. If we're going to use the calculator, same thing. So you can write the formula down and then make FP the subject of the formula and start doing your calculations. So you will do the calculation for the 7,000 first. Money is moving backwards. So we know that in terms of the manual calculation, that is what we do. In terms of the financial calculator steps, you say second function I and Y 1 year because the compounding period is 1, on and off plus or minus 7,000. That is our present value. 11 is our interest, -1 because it's moving backwards 1 year. Second function N, and again we're multiplying with the compounding periods and we store the answer as N. And then we press the comp button. And then we do the same for the rest of the question. All what you do, you find the answer there, you find the answer and subtract, and you should have the same answer as when they are calculating manually. All I can say is you just need to make sure that you practice. Practice makes perfect. So in order for you to be able to understand and know the steps, you just need to make sure that you use your calculator to do that. With that, I have an exercise. Mary borrows 2,000 from Mpho to pay her rent. The loan is due in 4 years from now with an interest rate of 11.5 per annum, compounded quarterly. On the same day, Mary borrows 3,000 from Mpho to pay her fees. And this amount is due in 4 years from now at an interest of 9% compounded monthly. Mary reschedules her debt and wants to pay both of them 2 years from now. Mpho agrees on the conditions that the interest rate for both debt is 10% per annum compounded half yearly. How much will Mary have to pay at the end of 2 years? Are we winning? Any comment, any question, any answer? Okay, let's unpack this question. So Mary borrowed the 2,000 for the rent, and the money is due in 4 years from now with an interest of 11% per annum compounded quarterly. On the same day, he goes and borrowed from Mpo. She goes and borrowed from Mpo 3,000 to pay for his fees, and it is due in 4 years as well from now at the same interest. So he goes and borrows. Everything is still going. The 2,000 and also the 3,000 at the same time. But he, before everything starts, she wants to settle her debt quickly in 2 years. So she wants to do it at this point. So since the money is still going, at that point, all the money are going forward. And since both of them are due in 2 years from now, they agree the conditions are the same of 10% per annum and it's compounded quarterly. So our interest is 10%. We no longer regard what was said in the statement. We only concentrate on the new information that we have. We know that this is 5,000 now because it was taken on the same day at an interest of 10%, and the period now, our T is equals to 2 because the money is still going forward. And how much will they have to repay back at the end of 2 years? Since nothing has kick-started, so every money is still going forward, but it will be settled after 2 years. So the formula to use will just be S is equals to P times 1 plus R to the power of T. You can combine the two debts because they happen at the same time and they go into the same person. So then it's 5,000 is our present value and our rate is 10% and our T is 2. And how did you work it out? If I go to the side, the financial calculator, second function CA, second function I and Y, which is P/Y, compounding periods, I didn't cover that, it's half yearly, so our compounding periods here is 2. So our compounding period will be 2 and E and T button. On and off the calculator, plus or minus, I'm going to combine both, it's 5,000 and that is our present value. Our interest is 10%, which is I and Y. And our term, since it's going forward, it's just 2, second function N, and again to store the values and comp future value, and the answer I get is 6077.53, unless someone did it totally different to what I did. Any question? Any remark? If there are no questions or remark, then we can recap. Any question? Let's see if on some of the questions that you might get in the exam looks like this. Maditeboho has a personal loan interest of 12% per annum compounded monthly. The amount she has to repay in 8 months from now is 2,000. What would be her obligation if she extends the loan to 11 months from now? And you just need to make sure that you extend, you calculate the obligation for this one. And if Mariteboho decides to settle her debt now, how much she would have to pay back? Then you have to move your money backwards. So the first one, you are still moving your money forward. The second one, you have to move your money backwards. And these are the kind of questions you might get in the exam on time value of your money. And same question as what we did previously. Now they are asking if that was the case for Paul and Mary borrowing each other money. If this was their case, how much will Mary have to pay back at the end of 4 years? So this is a normal compounding period calculation. But remember, both of them are compounded differently. So the first 2,000 is for 11%, 11.5% compounded quarterly. And it's compounded quarterly. And the second one, the interest is 9% and it's compounded monthly. So you will have to calculate both of them differently or separately and then add the answer so that you can see how much they will have to pay back at the end of 4 years. Okay, this does not relate to, this is just another one. This is another question. It comes from the past exam paper as well. So group of friends open a bank account, they deposit 12,000 and it earns 5%, 5.9% interest compounded monthly. 4 months ago, they managed to deposit additional amount. Today, they withdraw 10,000 to celebrate. Calculate how much they have left in their account. All the money are moving forward. But what is interesting about this, they say 4 months ago, and this is because it's compounded monthly, then there are 2 ways you can answer the question as well. Since they mentioned 4 months ago and 9 months ago, all these are compounded periods already. They already multiplied them by the number of months because it's compounded monthly. So when you go through your formula, those who are doing the financial calculator, you don't have to do second function and again, or second function py, or what do you call it? Second function times p/y and then press n. You don't have to do this step. All you do is you just say 4 and then you press the n button to store your value. It will know that that is the compounded amount. Because the problem will be you will go and say 4 divided by 12. And once you do that, when you do second function p and y, you are still going to multiply by. So you will do it this way. You will say 4 divided by 12 and you will get the answer. And the answer that you will get will be, let me show you. 4 divided by 12. 4 divided by 12, the answer is 0.3333 equals 0.333. When you go to your calculator and say 0.333 and then say second function and then you say times p/y and then say n. When you press this button, you are going to multiply this by 12 because you stored the compounding period as 12. And what will you get? So 0.333 multiplied by 12 is equals to 4. And you will say it will give you 4 and then you will press n, which is the same thing as you just skip all these steps and then say 4n and that will be the answer. the same when you are substituting. You don't have to go and divide by 12, multiply by 12, which will be the same thing that you are going to be doing. Since I said we work with years. So let's say we using the formula for those who are manually. You will be saying, those who are calculating manually, you will be saying S is equals to P times 1 plus R to the power T, and you will substitute what the value of T is. You will say T is 4 months divided by 12, but you will still need to multiply by the compounding periods, which is 12. 12 will cancel out 12, therefore T will be the same as 4. So instead of going through that version of converting the number of months to the compounding periods, you can just use the compounding period that as you see it on there. It only works if the compounding periods and the number of all the term are in the same unit. If it's 12 months and it's compounded 12 monthly, or it's compounded monthly, then you don't have to do anything. You just use the value you see. If it's quarterly and they say the period is in quarters, then you don't have to do anything. But the minute it is compounded yearly and the periods are in quarters, you need to convert those quarters into a year. Or let's say here they said it's compounded quarterly, but the periods are 4 months. You just have to divide by 12 in order to get the values to be in years, and then multiply that with the compounding period. Let's look at another one. There is no other one that looks like that. So those are the type of questions you will get in the exam when it comes to time value of your money. As to recap on what we did today, we looked at the basic calculation of simple interest, and we calculated what compounding interest is, and we looked at the time value of your money. And that concludes today's session. If you have any question, feel free to ask. Otherwise, thank you and enjoy the rest of the weekend. See you on Monday when we do annuities.
Lizzie, just a question on the assignments that I saw was now, or seems to all have been marked. When would we be able to see what the answers are? Are they gonna? Is the lecturer gonna publish that? The answer sheet.
I know nothing.
Oh no.
But I guess they will send the solution, probably the tutorial letter with answers probably to you. If it's not already posted on my UNISA, they will they will let you know when they published it. But it's normally going to be under your resources on my UNISA, where you find your tutorial letter 101s and study guide. It's usually there at a certain period. Yeah.
Thank you.
Otherwise, you can also send your lecturer an email. Hopefully they will respond with good news. Say, oh, we will send it next week, we forgot, or something like that.
Okay, thanks.
All right. If there's nothing else, thank you guys for coming through.
Thanks to you.